Hiya. I'm gonna do a video because there was like a ginormous event last night, really big, and everyone needs to know because it's so big. And I don't know really where to start. Really, I'll give you a little bit of background information. I might do 2 videos on this. I'll just run and see how it goes. Last year. I don't know what month last year, but last year going through a really difficult time, and my mum was like, Becky, you're inside this egg, you need to get out, which and you'll be given these gifts. So I was like, didn't know what she was talking about, but she was saying all these gifts will come to you, and but you need to get out of this egg. She says, I see you in an egg and you're trapped and you need to get out. Knew nothing about the Matrix or anything at that time. I was doing ET work, but I didn't, that veil to me hadn't been broken then. So anyway, I think it was that night or the following day, I went outside of the Matrix, and I got all this clearing, like AI came away from me. I came across like pure consciousness, and they just cleared all this crap from me. And when I came back into the Matrix, when I brought my consciousness back in, I started to see that all of consciousness on Earth is that we're all engulfed in a AI system, which is called the Matrix. And that, and then over the last year, understanding how the Matrix works, that all the planets are covered in this AI system, and that, this reality that we are living here, we actually don't create it here. We create it in our male light bodies. We all have a male light body, and we create this reality in our male light bodies. And standing next to our male light bodies is our female light bodies, which are supposed to communicate to the male light body to create the reality that we want. And my journey has been learning about, all, the belief structures, to the implants, to the synthetic energies, to the programming, to loads of things in the last year. I've learned so much and still know very little, but I have been on an amazing journey. And anyway, during the beginning, my mum, like the most amazing woman that you can meet, she's incredible. She was telling me that, the beginning of the journey, she said, you're going to get really, really busy. You're going to discover who created the Matrix, all these things. And at the end of the journey, you're going to be given a blue key. She said, when you receive that blue key, that will be the end of the journey. And that's kind of, I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, recently discovered that we are one big experiment, and this experiment has been conducted by these giants called the Watchers, and the reason they conducted this experiment is because that their black hole not producing any female energy. They'd lost their female energy. And this is the 4th time they tried to do this experiment, and they were using us as an experiment. And so, I don't know, a couple of months ago with the Watchers, they told me that I had to get rid of all my trauma, and then I would be given the blue key. Still didn't really understand what this blue key was about, but I knew it was linked to their black hole. And so I was like, oh, okay, get rid of my trauma. And but I didn't do anything. I just carried on as normal, and because obviously I've done a lot of trauma work, and my ego was like, I'm fine. And then I had a journey with the Queen Elizabeth attacked my boy and Toto and me and Gaia discovered where it, and it was Queen Elizabeth, and we took down the rest of the top of the spider where she had resided. Now, whatever happens in where we're projecting from takes time to come into this reality. So basically, you know, last month or 6 weeks ago, I'm not sure, the elite totally fell. And then came back to the UK nearly a month ago, or it's probably a month ago. And me and my partner Toto have been on an amazing ride of really understanding one another and really getting the balance between masculine and feminine, and releasing a lot of trauma. And it's been fucking horrendous. And I didn't realise because it's been daily, something's happened daily, like it's trying to understand things from the past, and breaking free from belief structures to perceptions to really facing shitty stuff that really didn't want to face. And Toto has been fucking amazing. I love that man so much, and he's yeah, we've helped one another, but he's really just bloody feels like he's dragged me along, and I'm just like kicking and screaming a little bit while this journey has been done. And I didn't, you know, I was telling my mum, I said, I don't know why this is so intense, like why is this so difficult, why the speed? Because it seemed like, you know, get rid of one trauma and then another one came up, and it was really intense. And until yesterday, it was like yesterday was, you know, still going through shit, and it was like the last I think the night before I broke down the perception of the masculine energy, because my first perception of the masculine energy, that it was scary, and therefore the that fear I had of the masculine was still affecting my life to this day, even though, you know, that perception was created when I was very small. So when I broke that down, I was able to freely speak even more to my partner, and it really started to see the real, like, the amazing beauty in the masculine energy, and that affected how I see Toto, to, you know, my dad who's passed now. So it was a really incredible healing, and yeah, so that was yesterday. Then last night, my kids came back. I hadn't seen them for a week. They'd gone away, and when they got back, they were not well. Not well. And my kids hadn't, you know, all the time in Sweden. I'd never been sick, and so yeah, and there was really shitty energy around both of them. So got them to bed, and me and Toto started to work on them. And my little girl, as we started to release a lot of crap from her field, Toto noticed that there was this like synthetic light above her head. And I got like, didn't want to look. I was like, oh. And he was like, yeah, he prepped and made me feel safe, and it's like, Becky, we've got to do this. So anyway, this light that was above her head is connected to a ship outside of the matrix, outside of Earth. And as I started to go towards the ship, I was like, right, okay, I'll just do my normal thing, like, who the fuck are you, and fuck off kind of thing. Noticed that this ship was connected to Nibiru, and this operation that they had conducted on my daughter had started when me and Gaia had taken down the spider machine at the top of the matrix. And then it was like Gaia pulled me back, and it was like, a, you know, couldn't do this alone kind of thing. But then she just went in all guns blazing. She covered the ship like surrounded this really a very small ship. And then she went boom and connected to all the planets. Now, she hasn't done this before because the planets have been, they're all covered in an AI system. The AI system has cut off the communication to all the planets, and they're only connected through AI. And this is, you think astrology is a natural thing, and it's not. You're connecting to an AI system. So she, like the force of her, like she was in full power. I've never felt her so powerful, and she connected to all the planets. And then she started to, she went to Nibiru, and she started to swirl her energies around Nibiru, swirl them at the bottom. And Toto was like, she's cutting the connections. She's kind of cutting the connections, because Nibiru is like the hub of the matrix. It's the one that basically controls all the other matrices, the moons and all the other planets, and the planets in our system. So she started to cut the connections, and then it's like war is there. And then the other planets started to wake up. They really started to and then they started, and they went through because all the planets are in this electrical cube, and it's all covered in AI. So, and they started to break down the AI in the cube. And then she told me to go to the computer, which so outside of the experiment. So I didn't know what I was going to do, but I went and followed my heart, and I went outside of the experiment, and we're basically locked into this computer, and I started to dismantle things from the computer. And it's like my heart already knows what I'm doing, but my brain's still learning, right? And then I went back into, came back, and she guided me into Nibiru. Now, Nibiru is like, looks like a planet. I don't think it's a real planet. And there's a tube all the way down, like this huge tunnel. And so I went down into the tunnel, and there was this huge, like, metal spinning thing. And then it was like, I've got to get in it. So I went in, took my consciousness in, and inside this thing was a key, blue key, and I hadn't clicked then. So I take this blue key out, and I was like, this is what keeps Nibiru in power. I didn't know how, but I knew that this is what keeps Nibiru in power, was this key. So I took it out, and I went into the center of Gaia, and I was looking at this key, and it looked like a key, but it was massive, and it was blue, and it had music notes on it. And behind the music notes was also DNA, like the drawing, engraved DNA, and then engraved music notes on this key. And what I've discovered only in the last few weeks is that you've got programming that comes from beliefs, but you've also got this synthetic DNA, this shitty thing a fake DNA that they put in our consciousness, which really screws us up. And it's not like we get this, this just gets passed down. So it's in our, we get it from our mums and dads, but they get it from their mums and dads and their mums and dads, and it just travels down the consciousness. So, in the last couple of weeks I've been taking this out. It's not like I need to understand it or anything. It's not linked to any trauma. It's just this shitty DNA that's fake DNA, and you get the top DNA, which is a blue DNA, and this is where the blue bloods and everything come from. And anyway, I knew I had to take this key to the black hole. So as I took the key and I went to the black hole, And then I started to understand why I had to get rid of all my trauma before I did this journey, and why it's been so intense for the last month of trauma healing. So as I started to go down the black hole, there was all this, what looked like, it was just black, crappy energy. It was like demonic. It was horrendous. And if I had any darkness in me, any trauma, I wouldn't have got to my destination. It would have just sucked me in. I wouldn't have been able to get to where I was going. And so I was moving my consciousness, and I was just going forward, just like, oh my God, what's happening kind of thing. And then get to the end of the black hole. There was this like round, like door kind of thing, and the key slotted in, and I opened it and I went on the other side. Now on the other side of the black hole was just pure consciousness. It wasn't male consciousness. It was just consciousness, pure female consciousness. Light. It was so light, really light, and it was just beautiful. It was just light. There was no identity in this consciousness. There was no it was like everything and nothing. It was just pure light. And then the door, because the door closed behind me, and then the door flew open, and all the black shit that was in this black hole started to come through, and I started to panic. And then I heard heard my mum saying, "Don't worry, the light will soak up all this blackness. It's fine." And so as the darkness started to be released, this energy, this beautiful energy, started to go into, it was able to go through the black hole. And what I started to understand is that pure consciousness is female consciousness. And the black hole is not a black hole. Black holes aren't natural. That is an AI generated pump that has overlaid the real organic way of how consciousness creates individuality. So the consciousness that was behind the black hole, that was behind this black hole, had no identity. All it was female consciousness. And as she started to move forward, because the door had opened and all the darkness flew, she started to pump forward with light. And Toto said sound, but I didn't hear sound, but I just saw the light going through. And what happened is that the black hole disappeared, and it was like this red energy. It looked like a rose. And it was like the giver of life. And I started to see that all my life, all these pictures of my life, and the rose and my mum in the garden of roses, and that this journey that was being done had always been planned before I even got here. And it was absolutely incredible. And that pure consciousness from this black hole, pure consciousness had stopped being producing. They had stopped. It was like blocked through the darkness and of the AI system. And that new consciousness wasn't being born, because as the feminine consciousness started to come through, and then this form of a like rose, and the energy come through, she created the masculine energy. The masculine is like the masculine energy actually comes from the feminine energy. She creates everything. And that pure consciousness hasn't been in this reality for a long time. So the consciousness that's been here has just been traumatized. but now we've got pure consciousness coming through. And yeah, so that was my journey. I came back on a high. I've literally slept 4 hours in the last 48 hours. It's been really intense. And I probably sound slightly crazy. People haven't followed my work or anything like that. And there's probably, I'm still loads of understanding. I've got loads of questions and there's so much I need to understand. But it was like a huge night. Like Nibiru is like, before, you know, last couple of months ago, the spider machine came down. And that takes time to come into our reality. So basically the elite has fallen. There's no way back. And also a big chunk of the AI came down from outside of the matrix. But last night, all the planets hooked up naturally. Nibiru is down. And the power that they had was taken away from them because the power was that key that kept them in power. Woohoo! I know, yeah, I was just so happy. And I probably sound like a crazy woman. I don't really give a shit. Because it's probably taken a lot of people to understand, but it's fine. But all the people that watch me, they'll thank you for watching, and I'll keep you updated. Okay, thanks. You take care. Bye.